Just before we start, I just want to let everyone know that we're really sad because Mum's husband, Ron, is unable to be with us today. He's had a really bad fall and he's at the nursing home. And hopefully David, his son, is, showing him this service. Anyway, Janice and I would like to welcome you all to the celebration of our mother, Joyce Kaye, and also to extend a warm welcome to those who will be joining us via Zoom. Joyce's life had many significant days or dates, coincidences, and we thought that she would like the 11th of April for this celebration because it is the 125th anniversary of the birth of her mother today, Nana Rose. She was born in 1899. We will commence today with the history of Joyce's life presented by her two grandchildren, Carly and Simon, and then this will be followed by a couple of short reflections from Janice, myself, and my two daughters, Jacinta and Kate. So enjoy. Thank you.
Joyce Isabel Uren was born on the 31st of August 1928 at Airlie Maternity Hospital, Ivanhoe, to Rose Isabel Hamilton and John William Jack Uren. Joyce's arrival completed their family of 5. She had 2 older brothers, Lindsay and Donald. Rose wasn't happy when she realised she was pregnant with her 3rd child, as she already had 2 boys under 3 and didn't know how she would cope. Despite that, she was overjoyed when her daughter was born. During Joyce's early years, her family lived in Heidelberg, in a house they built just near Banksia Street. During this time, her father, Jack, established a fruit shop business in Upper Heidelberg Road, Ivanhoe, together with Rose's brother-in-law, Eric. Tragedy and upheaval struck the young family. The Depression arrived, and Eric gambled away lots of money, and they lost the fruit shop in their house in Heidelberg Road. Eric's wife, Mary, who was Rose's sister, committed suicide in the Yarra River, leaving behind 3 young boys, 1 a baby. It was a very hard time for the families. Joyce's brother Lindsay was separated from his siblings and went to live with an aunt along with their cousin Russell. Their other 2 cousins went to live with their grandmother. Rose, Don, and Joyce remained in Alphington with Jack's parents. Joyce's father, Jack, went looking for work in the country. When things improved and her father found work in Melbourne, they were all reunited. They rented the house in 5 Yarraley Street, Alphington, for many years, eventually purchasing it. Joyce played all sports: swimming, tennis, badminton, basketball, and gymnastics. She was a fast runner, and she used to tease her brothers and then run off. Her brother, Don, knew he couldn't catch her, so he would throw tennis balls at her instead. She attended Alphington Primary School through to Year 6, moved on to Ivanhoe Central School for Years 7 and 8, before progressing to Coburg High School, completing Year 9. She made the honour board for excelling at all sports, including winning the Athletics Championship Cup at 13.5 years old. Competing against students in higher year levels, she won the 100 yards in 1948. One of these older students asked Joyce to let her win, but that was like a red rag to a bull. It made her more determined to beat her. Growing up in Alphington was a very happy time. She had many cousins living in the same street and other local streets of Alphington. All their neighbours had children the same ages, and they all became lifelong friends. All her family were devoted Collingwood supporters. She was very proud of her cousin, Jack Hamilton, who played full-back for Collingwood and then went on to become the Chief Commissioner of the AFL between 1984 and 1986. She and Jack were the same age, lived in the same street, attended the same school, and were great mates as children and into adulthood. The family home in Yarraley Street was at the Yarra River end of the street. It was just around the corner from the Oval, bowling club, and swimming hole in the Yarra River. Joyce spent a lot of her youth at the swimming hole. After completing Year 9, she attended Scott's Business College, completing a secretarial course which covered typing, shorthand, and bookkeeping. She joined Hoyt's Theatres, working in office administration for the next 3.5 years during World War II. It was during this time that she met Adele Bray, who became her best friend for over 70 years. In the slideshow, you will see a held son photograph of Joyce, her brother Don, and other friends walking arm in arm down one of the city streets with the tram in the background, celebrating the end of World War II on 2nd September 1945. This was 2 days after Joyce's 17th birthday. Joyce left Hoyts in mid-1946 and commenced work as confidential secretary to the construction engineer at the Gas and Fuel Corporation in Fitzroy. When she commenced work, her social life expanded immensely. The Heidelberg Town Hall had opened in 1937, and not long after the opening, public dances were held on a Wednesday and Saturday night. Joyce was a regular attendee at these dances, along with her siblings and many cousins. They sometimes walked from Alphington to and from the dance. She loved the Heidelberg Town Hall so much that she held her 21st birthday celebration in the lower hall. It's now called the Street and Room. Her mother made her 21st birthday gown for this occasion, along with many other gowns for all the dances she attended. She just loved to dance and get dressed up. Her social life also extended to many holidays away from groups of friends and cousins. Lawn was a favourite, along with Cleansquiff, and day trips to Beaumaris and Sandringham to play tennis. She also toured New South Wales with her friend Dell and Dell's parents, visiting Katoomba and Sydney. Whilst working at the Gas and Fuel Corporation, she met Malcolm De Silva. He was working as a draftsman whilst he completed his mechanical engineering qualification. They became engaged on the 21st of July, 1951, and married on the 21st of February, 1953. Joyce continued to work after they married, but only until she became pregnant. It wasn't usual for women to work after they married, so she was a bit of a trailblazer in that regard. For the first couple of years after their marriage, they lived in a rented half house in Baldwin, whilst they built their home at 9 Invermary Grove, Rosanna. Mal, his father, and other friends and family helped with the foundations and other parts of the construction of the house. On their second wedding anniversary, on the 21st of February 1955, they welcomed Janice into their lives. The new family continued to live in Baldwin until the house in Rosanna was completed at the end of 1955. Around this time, Mal's parents moved to Biddles Creek, where they had a poultry farm. As a family, they would regularly visit his parents, bringing back eggs, which Joyce sold to neighbours in the street. Mal's parents would also take orders for chickens at Christmas time, and Joyce would sell them as well. Robin was born on the 31st of August 1957, after 3 days of labour. Joyce certainly had a tough time, and this also happened to be her 29th birthday. Joyce and Mal had wonderful neighbours in Rosanna, the Dennis family next door, the Craddocks 2 doors up, and the Smiths at the end of the street. Joyce and Mal got on very well with them, and they all had children of similar ages. Joyce's brothers and their family also lived close by. Lindsay, Peggy, Jenny and Sandra lived in Manton Street, Heidelberg, and Don, Shirley, Heather, Ken, Christian and Jeff lived in Station Road, Rosanna. Don worked for the Defence Force, and the family moved to Canberra in the late 1960s as part of the Defence Force relocation at the time. Joyce was very upset that the family would no longer be close by. Her brothers were always a great support to her. The family were fortunate enough to have a car. Mal was usually the driver, but he taught Joyce to drive. There weren't many women who drove cars in the early 1960s. Joyce was a regular churchgoer at Rosanna Methodist Church. The children also attended Sunday school there. The church had a calisthenics club, which Joyce enthusiastically encouraged Janice and Robin to attend. She was always involved in the club, offering her time on the committee and sewing costumes for the annual concert. Invariably, she would be backstage and would miss most of the concert. The church also offered a fellowship group, which Joyce attended reasonably regularly on a weekday evening. This was an opportunity for her to mix with other local mothers and attend social occasions that they hosted. She was also involved with local ladies who played tennis during the week. There seemed to be a never-ending list of private tennis courts where she played socially, at the Rushtons along Wayara Road, behind a house in Mountain View Parade, and off Harper Heidelberg Road, Rosanna, behind another house. The school tuck shop, however, was not her thing to attend. Throughout this time, Joyce would occasionally work odd days for BizBuzz hardware stores in Thornbury, just to get a bit of extra money. Joyce's father, Jack, passed away suddenly in 1963. He had a heart attack, and the doctors discovered he had diabetes as well. She was very upset by this event. Jack was a very lovely, gentle man who was fun to be around. He always had lollies in his pockets. Joyce spent a lot of time supporting her mother. In 1965, with their marriage faltering, Mal left the Gas and Fuel Corporation and moved to Sydney to further his career. The separation lasted until August 1966, when Joyce, Janice and Robin moved to Sydney, where Joyce and Mal attempted a reconciliation. The move to Sydney was pretty tough on all of them, They lived in Hunters Hill, where Mal had a 2-bedroom flat. Janice finished last term of grade 6 at Hunters Hill Primary School and then attended first form of Hunters Hill High School. Robin went to grade 3 at Hunters Hill Primary School through to the end of grade 4. Joyce had a cousin living in Sydney, Lenny and Marie, and their 3 boys. As Joyce was always close with her cousins, this was good for her, and the family got to catch up with them regularly. Lenny and Marie played tennis and got Joyce and Mal involved with a Saturday afternoon tennis team. As Joyce was always an active person, this was great for her. The Dennis family, who were their next-door neighbours in Rosanna, had also moved to Sydney a few years earlier, and Joyce and Mal also caught up with them on a regular basis whilst they were living in Sydney. The reconciliation with Mal was not successful, and Joyce, Janice and Robin moved back to Melbourne at the end of 1967. They lived with Joyce's mother, Rose, at their house in Yarrowlee Street, Alphington, for a while until they could move into a new unit that was being built in Turnham Avenue, Rosanna. Rose was also sold her Yarrowlee Street house and moved into a unit next door. Joyce and Mal divorced in 1969. Following the divorce, Joyce realised that she would have to return to the workforce. In 1969, it was not common to be divorced, and there was a lot of prejudice in the community. She never spoke about this, but it must have been a very difficult time for her. Her cousin Alan encouraged her to take up badminton as a means to get back to socialising. They ended up winning a pennant in 1969. She was again very grateful for him for recognising that she needed to do something normal. In 1970, she commenced working for the Shell Company in the newly formed oil heating department in Showroom. She worked 5 days a week, but kept to part-time hours. Joyce encouraged Janice and Robin to learn tennis after they returned to Melbourne. This was a very busy time of her life, working, running a house, 2 teenage daughters to run around, and her own sporting interests as well as her daughters. Joyce would drive Janice and Robin to play junior competition tennis on a Saturday morning, and then they would all have a quick lunch and be off to Saturday afternoon competition tennis. All 3 of them. How she did it, no one knows. Invariably, they never played at the same courts. Everyone called her Joyce, Janice, Robin, and even their friends. During those years, the 3 of them had a very close relationship. In 1974, Joyce's mother, Rose, who lived in the unit next door, became ill with stomach cancer. For 12 months, Joyce continued working at Shell part-time whilst looking for her mother and sleeping on the couch. She gave of herself many times over. She often said that she is forever grateful for the support she received from her family and friends during this time. She wanted to especially thank Lennis Craddock for always being there for her when her mother passed away.
In late 1975, a work colleague at Shell introduced her to Joyce Kaye. She found that they had many common interests, such as sport, especially football and cricket, cards, tennis, and local theatre. It turned out they also had friends that they both knew. They were married at Weir Street Methodist Church in Brighton on the 25th of September 1976. Unbelievably, this was grand final day, which doesn't really seem right for football supporters to be. Anyway, it was a Hawthorn North Melbourne grand final, so no one in their families were particularly upset about missing it, but her brother Don, who was giving her away, did go to see the Collingwood Reserves win their grand final before the ceremony. Ron had been widowed in 1969 and had 5 children: John, Susan, David, Greg and Philip. John, Susan and David were already living independently, but Greg and Philip were still living at home. Their marriage meant that they would now become a family of 6 under the one roof. Joyce's notes indicate she had some uncertainties about the prospect of taking on such a large family. Joyce and Ron purchased their home at 11 Camperdown Street, Brighton East. They would remain living in that same home until November of last year. Ron had previously lived in Hampton and Joyce had been living in Rosanna. Initially, Joyce had wanted somewhere halfway between Hampton and Rosanna, and they looked in Camberwell but found the house prices too high. This was another big move for Joyce, Janice and Robin. They had a large circle of friends in Rosanna and didn't know anyone in the Bayside suburbs. After they married, Joyce threw herself into managing the household whilst working part-time in various positions and then full-time for 7 years as a bookkeeper for the local electrician. As usual, she gave of herself. If she'd finished her work for the day, she'd then go into their house and do any ironing that might have been needed and started prepping for dinner. During this time, she took on the role of mother to Philip, who was a bit younger than the rest. When he changed schools, she looked out for him and sat in the car outside the school grounds to see how he was getting along during recess and lunchtime. She'd also take him to his regular appointments. Ron played cricket on Saturdays, and so did his family. Joyce took up Saturday afternoon competition tennis at the Weir Street Methodist Church Club. Janice and Robin continued to play competition tennis and travelled back to the Heidelberg district to play with their friends on a Saturday afternoon, and then they'd go on to the Old England for a Saturday night. This was a very regular occurrence. In the winter time, Ron would play tennis with Joyce. Ron was a member of the Melbourne Cricket Club for years, becoming a 50-year club member. As we all know, Joyce was a staunch Collingwood supporter, and Ron barracked for St Kilda. When the opportunity came up for women to become MCC members, Ron signed Joyce up to be an inaugural lady member of the MCC, and they enjoyed many years of going to the football together. Joyce continued to play tennis until she was 70. Then she took up bowls at Brighton Beach Bowling Club before moving on to Hyatt Bowling Club. She was an excellent bowler, taking on after the Hamilton family from Alphington. Over her playing years, she was club champion and won ladies' pairs and mixed pairs. She continued playing competition bowls until she had a fall a few years ago, breaking her collarbone and tearing a tendon in her shoulder. She didn't get back to competition bowls after that, but she'd have a social role. Ron always said that whenever she had a role, she always bowled well. She even played bowls with David on one occasion. She said she felt she'd let him down that day, as she didn't play very well. She was thrilled when Philip took up bowls and always talked about the great style that he continues to have. Joyce and Ron continue to have a great social life, functions at the cricket club, tennis club and bowling club, musical theatre nights, dinner and lunches with their friends, going to the movies at Dendy Brighton, card nights with friends on a weekly basis. They hosted many family gatherings at Christmas, Easter, and many family birthdays. It was a huge job to be host, and one that both she and Ron worked very hard on these occasions. This continued for many, many years until the family decided it was too much for them. Joyce was overjoyed to become a grandmother. She loved her a great-grandmother. She loved her 4 grandchildren immensely and ignore all that. She loved her 4 grandchildren immensely, took an active interest in their lives, saw them as often as possible. She had become an instant grandmother when she married Ron as well, and that should be noted as well. Joyce and Ron had 2 overseas trips after they retired. The first one was to England and Europe in 1987. Sue and her family were living in the UK then, so they had a base from which to travel further. They travelled with Keith and Marg Ritchie through Wales and England. Their second overseas trip in 1990 was to Europe and Sweden. They completed a Trafalgar European tour, which they loved, although they commented on how much hard work it was every day. They joined a timeshare company in later years and had many driving holidays to timeshare resorts in Victoria and interstate. Joyce, Ron and Philip took a cruise to New Zealand. Just before the cruise left for Sydney, Joyce felt unwell. She was diagnosed with shingles. She was very lucky and got treated immediately, so she was able to enjoy most of the holiday. Joyce spent as much time as possible with her grandchildren. She babysat over school holidays, took them on many outings to Dendy Street Beach in the summer, pantomimes at local theatre companies. She loved her dogs. Teddy when she was young, Sooty, who was a devilish escape artist, Brutus, who was a little mad, loved for the water, Sandy, a stray, Shep, given to them by a friend who was going overseas, Sally, who was also given to them. She also looked after everyone else's dogs when they went away on holidays. Ron's father taught her how to do tapestry. When Janice and Ken moved to Sweden, she thought she would need something to do, so a tapestry was purchased. She was confident that she'd be able to finish it in the time that Janice and Ken would be away. That tapestry took her 17 years to finish. In her words, life was too busy. In her later years, Joyce suffered from some serious medical conditions. Atrial fibrillation was the most serious, and after one hospital stay during COVID, required her to be cared for by Janice and Robin. She returned home stronger than she'd been. In her 90s, her life became more restricted to around the home. She'd continued to go shopping for their necessities, but had given up cooking the evening meal. Joyce and Ron still visited the bowling club to see their friends play, and they both still drove to the doctors and hairdressers. The family worried that they shouldn't be driving, but how do you stop someone? Joyce had a couple of very serious cancers removed from her head in May of last year. She was very upset that she'd lost her hair on the top of her head. She regretted that she spent so much time in the sun as a young person. Despite all that was going on in her life, she and Ron watched her much-loved Collingwood win the grand final in 2023. In October last year, one of her beloved nieces, Christine, passed away, and Janice and Robin convinced her to make the trip to Port Macquarie for Christine's funeral. All of her nieces and nephews would be there, and they knew it was probably the last opportunity she'd have to catch up with them. She was very pleased that she was able to attend. Joyce contracted COVID after the return from Port Macquarie. She recovered somewhat, but not enough to return home, so she moved into an aged care facility close to Janice and Robin. She had always said that if she needed to go into care, she wanted to be close to her daughters. Her old neighbour, Lennis Craddock, was also living in this facility, so this helped Joyce in settling in, although she missed Ron a lot. Despite the upheaval, she settled in quite well, and she met some lovely people. The family are incredibly grateful to the staff at Blue Cross Ashby for their care and support for Joyce in those last couple of months. In late January, early Feb, she was sent to Austin Hospital for investigations as her health was deteriorating. She moved into the Olivia Newton-John wing, where she remained until her passing. The doctors and nursing staff were amazing. They treated her with so much respect, and more than once in this time commented on how vital she was right up until the end. She knew everything about the staff and their personal lives, where they lived, who they barracked for. On the 21st of February 2024, she passed away peacefully at 11:58 with Janice and Robin by her side. Joyce was a very kind, generous, loving and beautiful person who will be greatly missed. She was a woman ahead of her time, a trailblazer, courageous and strong. She was a gatekeeper about certain recipes, I think we can all agree. Joyce Isabel Kaye, née De Silva, née Uren, 1928 to 2024, mother, grandmother and great-grandmother, stepmother, step-grandmother and step-great-grandmother to many. You will be missed.
Sorry. I might need these. There's none left. Thank you. Mum, in her wisdom, wrote a lot of her own eulogy. We found an envelope containing up to 5 different versions. Mum was like that. She would write herself little notes. Notes were everywhere, in purses, handbag pockets, notepads, envelopes. We're lucky she had such good handwriting. I recall that Mum did a lot for us as children, teenagers and as adults, and for that I am eternally grateful. When we were very young, every decision she made always considered Robin and I. She tried so hard for us to have as normal a life as possible. When I think about it now, she must have been so tired sometimes. Her support for people extended to everyone. She looked after my friend Jill and her younger brother Mark when their mother passed away in 1965 and they weren't allowed to attend the funeral. When Mum was in the Olivia Newton-John Centre, she said to me that she had been thinking about Jill and Mark, and her words were that no child should lose a parent so young. She thought about other people all the time. After our return from Sydney, Mum went out of her way to sew me a pink apron that was required for home economics in Form 2, just so I would not feel different to the other kids at school. Our school friends and tennis friends were always welcome in our home, and lots of her friends, I think, would call her a friend also. As teenagers, I remember the 3 of us would sit down in the evening and fold washing whilst watching television. Sometimes Mum would fall asleep and Robin and I would throw folded up socks at her to wake her up. She was appalled when I got suspended from school for a week in Year 12 for drinking on school camp. My friends and I were not immediately found out, but when we were, the school vice principal personally drove us to our respective homes and delivered us there. I think she found that more mortifying than the actual suspension. My friend Linda only recently said that she remembers a time when she called into our place in Rosanna and Mum invited her to stay to dinner. Linda said she doesn't know how she did it, but she made our dinner of fish patties and veggies stretch to another person with what seemed like no effort. When Carly was 2, she stayed with Mum and Ron for a week. Ken and I had a week away. When we turned up at Mum's to pick up Carly, here she was with a huge apron on, a balloon around her waist, and she was painting at an easel outside in the driveway. Mum obviously thought that that was a great way for Carly to greet us. The only problem was that she had scratches all over and bruises all over her face. Mum said she'd fallen off the back step. We were wondering if Nana really was responsible enough to leave our daughter with. During Mum and Ron's travels overseas in 1990, they visited us in Sweden. I arranged a driving tour from Oslo to Bergen, which then followed the fjords in a loop back to Oslo. Mum hated heights, and she suffered the drives along the edges of the fjords that were on goat tracks with just a brick edging before the drop of the hundreds of feet below to the water. We got to the top of the trollway in pea-soup fog. Even we were nervous about the descent and stopped at the top, but Mum and Ron mustn't have seen us because they just sailed on past. She said they never would have done such a trip on their own. Despite that, she loved it. Another school holiday, she looked after Carly and Simon and she took them into the city for the day. They were in Maya and the escalator suddenly stopped working just before they were about to use it. The store manager came to investigate and they managed to get it working again. Mum was a bit suspicious and embarrassed that Simon had something to do with it. She interrogated him several times with no success. Later that night, he admitted being the culprit who had pressed that big red button on the side wall of the escalator. She was very proud of her grandchildren and that they had found their independence and were responsible, caring individuals. I think that she really enjoyed her last Christmas. She got to see her grandchildren and great-grandchildren and got into the spirit of things wearing a silly headband along with the rest of us. It was wonderful having her so close by during those last couple of months. The day before she passed away, she told me that she was going to die on my birthday. I didn't quite know how to respond and just told her, if you do that, you will complete the circle. I don't know if she understood what I meant, but I realised she would now have a permanent connection with me, like she had always had with Robin, with their birthdays being on the same day. I sort of think it's symbolic in some way. Tony, our cousin Christine's husband, called me last week to let me know that he couldn't make it today. But he said that he always got on really well with Joyce and that she was such fun. What a wonderful mum, grandmother and great-grandmother she was, loved and admired by all. Thank you.
Just a few short weeks ago, Mum was happily playing bingo and doing exercise classes with the new friend she had made at the Blue Cross nursing home in Templestowe. It's hard to believe that she has gone, even though she was 95, her illness was sudden. Because of her age, unfortunately, there was nothing the doctors could do for her except to keep her comfortable. Mum wasn't in a lot of pain, and it was a blessing to us that she didn't suffer. Joyce was very brave right to the end. She knew she was dying and that her time was limited with all of us, so she made the most of her last few weeks until she just peacefully faded away. Mum was a very warm, bright, friendly, down-to-earth, outgoing person. She was kind, caring, loving, loyal, trustworthy, strong, brave, determined, and a good listener. She was always there when I needed someone to talk to, and I'm sure she was there for my sister Janice and all of her grandchildren too. Mum provided guidance. She taught us a lot about rights and wrongs and to be always well-mannered. Both she and Dad were the same with the manners. Having good manners and being respectful to others was drummed into both of us from a very, very early age. Joyce could be a bit of a tease at times, but I think that was a fairly common occurrence in the Uren family. Uncle Lindsay and Uncle Don, her two older brothers, all had a bit of larrikin in them. When I think of what a mother is, I think that she is someone who is nurturing, someone who provides unconditional love, someone who is always there to support you when you're at your lowest point, someone who can lift your spirits and tell you it will work out, things will get better. And Mum would often say, there is always hope and light at the end of the tunnel. The Rosanna years. We had lovely neighbours, as has already been mentioned in previous eulogies. Back in the 1960s, it was safe to play outside. Jill and Neil Dennis, who lived next door, were always jumping over the back fence and vice versa to come and play. We both had dogs. Jill's dog was Sally. She was a black German Shepherd cross, and our dog was Sooty, and he was a Fox Terrier cross, and he was black too. One day, Jill and I decided to have an adventure. So off we went, walking her dog Sally down to visit her nana, and we were only 4 or 5 years of age at the time. Jill's nana lived in Grove Road, Rosanna. We walked down to the Rosanna shops, crossed Lower Plenty Road and the Rosanna railway line at the station, then continued along Turnham Avenue to Station Road, then to Grove Road to Jill's nana's house. Oh my God, when you think about this today, 2 little girls walking a dog by themselves all that way, no wonder Joyce was cross. Maudie, Jill's nana, rang Joyce and said, guess what? I have Jill, Robin and Sally here. I'll give the girls a glass of milk and a snack and wait until you can come and collect them in your car. I remember getting into a lot of trouble that day. I don't think I was allowed out to play with Jill or any of our other neighbours for a week. I was grounded. We regularly played out the front in the street and in our respective homes with Susan and Marty Craddock as well. We were all very close and we had lots of fun. The Craddocks only lived 2 doors up from us. When Mum first got her driver's licence, she would take Auntie Shirley and her 2 youngest children, and we would drive all the way into the city to the Queen Victoria Market to buy fruit, vegetables and meat. This was a fortnightly occurrence. Back in the early 60s, people must have been very trusting because Mum and Auntie Shirl left Christine, Jeff and I in the car while they did all the shopping. Wouldn't happen today. Christine and I would have only been around 4 or 5 years of age, and Jeff was sort of still a baby, maybe 2 or 3. In the school holidays, the older ones would join us, Heather, Ken and Janice. My goodness, I just don't know how we all fitted in the car, as we only had a small cream-coloured Austin sedan. This just wouldn't happen today. We must have all been very well behaved because we never got into any trouble while we were waiting for them in the big car park at the Vic Market. Such was the innocence of the 1960s. In 1966, we moved to Sydney. Our move from Melbourne to Sydney was tinged with sadness. We'd sold our family home in Invermay Grove in 1966 so that Mum and Dad could try and resolve their relationship issues. Janice and I had a very interesting initiation to school. We went to Hunters Hill Public School, and our first day was filled with drama because in Melbourne, it wasn't compulsory to wear school uniform. In Sydney, it was, and Nana wasn't told, or Mum wasn't told about that. So Janice and I rocked up to assembly in tartan skirts and red jumpers, and everyone in the whole assembly just turned around and looked at us. It was just, it was awful. Mum was devastated by what had happened, and then raced us off in the afternoon to get school uniforms so we would fit in. We had some fun times with Mum in Turnham Avenue. That was when we had the unit and after Mum had come back home. I remember one particular night there was a weird noise that had come from Mum's bedroom. She gave out an almighty groan. Janice and I woke up quite startled and just looked at each other in the dark. It sounded like Mum had been stabbed or something. We didn't know what was going on. Anyway, we got up and went into her room and said, "Mum, are you okay?" She said, "It's all good." It was the Holland blind, the one that was between the windowsill and the curtains. It just went whoosh up all of a sudden and made a funny noise. Gave me a fright, that's what she said. This happened around 2 a.m. in the morning, and none of us slept very well after that little episode. Then we had another drama at the unit when a young guy was attacked by a group of youths in Turnham Avenue one Friday night. He ran all the way down our long driveway thinking he could escape to the park at the back, but he didn't realise our backyard was all fenced off. So he banged on the front door pleading for help. Poor Mum, being a single at the time, was absolutely terrified, and we all woke up with a fright again by all the commotion. Joyce tried to put on a deep voice to sound like a man. She said, "What's going on?" This poor decent young man just wanted to feel safe. Joyce was too scared to open the door and let him in, but she looked through the peephole in our front door and told him he could jump over our fences, but to watch out for the old dog asleep in our backyard. Afterwards, Mum told us that she felt really bad because he seemed like a decent lad, and then she said, "Imagine if it was my son and no one helped him." Janice and I reassured Mum that she wasn't to know if the other guys weren't there and that it was okay. She was only trying to protect us. We had 2 dogs in Rosanna, but the one that was the most interesting was Brutus. He was our black Labrador cross Dalmatian pup, and boy was he a handful. He was given to us by Jill Karen, Janice's friend, whose dog Toots had had a litter of puppies. Back in the 70s, there was no such thing as puppy school or dog training like it is today. Brutus's favourite toy was a solid silver tablespoon. He used to toss it up in the air and catch it again between his paws. He loved the spoon so much he bent it completely out of shape with his teeth in no time. Distraction or boredom? I think a little bit of both. Brutus got under the house and chewed through our telephone cables, disconnecting our phone, not once, but twice. He painstakingly undid the bolt on the gate adjoining our grandmother's unit and broke into her small backyard. We were all at school that day and Nana had been out. She'd been visiting a friend and she returned home to find every pot plant on her 3-tiered stand smashed to pieces on the ground. There was dirt everywhere, and terracotta pots were all smashed as well and broken into pieces. Then Nana found her yard broom, which had also been chewed and nibbled on. It was so bad, Nana's broom looked like a fan, and she couldn't use it again. Then there was the incident with Great Auntie Nell's reading glasses. Brutus stole them when she was visiting. She must have put her glasses down on the coffee table and he ran outside with them. When Mum realised that Brutus had stolen the glasses, she was in a panic to try and repair them, as Auntie Nell was going on a trip to England the very next day. Mum boiled the kettle quickly while Nana distracted Auntie Nell. She placed the arms of the reading glasses in a dish of boiling water and bent them back into perfect shape. Poor Auntie Nell was none the wiser. They were just like they were before the dog had stolen them. Mum was a great support with with the sports we used to play. She used to take us to tennis on Saturday mornings, collect some teammates along the way, and sometimes she would even help umpire. It wasn't just tennis that she supported me with. I remember Mum coming to watch me to run in my very first ever athletics carnival in Sydney. I was only in grade 4. She was cross with me because I was racing against my best friend Cynthia, and we were looking at each other and laughing whilst we were running down the track. I just came third at the finish line and got a place by a whisker. Poor Cynthia came fourth, and thankfully she still made the relay team. We had a fantastic relay team at Hunters Hill, and we won our way to the state championships, which were held at the SCG. Mum came to watch that event as well. We didn't win a medal, but we came 5th in the state of New South Wales, which was absolutely awesome. After we returned to Melbourne, I was very into netball and rounders. Mum came along to Rosanna Primary School one day. We had a grand final netball match where we played against the very strong and tough West Heidelberg girls. It was a really close match and we ended up winning. Then we went on to win the Northern Division Netball Championships, and she came to watch that victory as well. I think I shot more goals in both of these finals because Mum was there to support me and encourage me. I'm not sure how she got time off work, but I think she maybe either worked a couple of longer evenings the day before or a couple of days before, or she took a sickie. Mum used to also drive us and my friends from McLeod High to ballroom dancing classes in Heidelberg. Bruce Kearney, Tony Dutton and Craig Burke would all meet at my place, then we'd pile into Mum's 2-door Holden Tirana and off we'd go to ballroom dancing. I would meet my friend Sue Wakefield down there as she travelled with her neighbours. There were many times Mum would share the driving with one of the other parents, especially if we were going to concerts at Festival Hall or other venues which weren't accessible via public transport. Jill Dennis and I went to a few concerts at Festival Hall in the 70s and another one at South Melbourne Footy Ground where we saw Elton John. These venues were very hard to get to from Rosanna, so Mum would drive and Jill's dad would pick us up and bring us home. These days it's much easier to get to and from big concerts. We had several lovely holidays at Anglesea as teenagers. We shared the rental with Auntie Peggy and Uncle Lindsay. It was lots of fun in the sun and surf with our cousins Jenny and Sandra. Quite a few of our friends from Heidelberg Scots Tennis Club came down to visit. And our parents knew everyone, so it was great times had by all. One year we also went to Rosebud, and another time we holidayed at Skeens Creek just near Apollo Bay. The waves were absolutely huge at Skeens Creek, and I remember us all getting dumped and bowled over, even the parents. Joyce loved her summer break from work. Sharing the rent with her brother and his family worked out well for everyone. One year the Dennises, our next door neighbours, came down to Anglesea and stayed for a few days as well. Jill loved it. Mum, being the outgoing person she was, welcomed all of our friends to the unit in Rosanna. We would often have friends from school or tennis come over. We'd play records in the dining room, sit and chat in the lounge room, and then go outside to play table tennis in the garage. Mum was good at all sports she played, but she was particularly good at table tennis, and I found it very hard to win against her, and I'm sure Janice did too. All of our friends knew Joyce, and that was the way she liked it. Mum loved her music, and she really enjoyed dancing too. We had lots of weddings of cousins and family friends to go to, and Mum was always one of the first ones up on the dance floor. I distinctly remember that after all the speeches and supper was over at my 21st birthday, that she danced all night until around 3 a.m. with my friends in the dining room. We'd set up a jukebox in the dining room, and because it just happened to be Mum's 50th birthday when I turned 21, so they were both really big days and dates, she decided to let her hair down and join in with all the young ones. That was Joyce. When Jeff and I discovered we had fertility problems, Mum knew I was in a lot of pain, both emotionally and physically. She was with me throughout my roller coaster ride on IVF. The heartache of losing embryo after embryo was absolutely devastating, but that determination to succeed had been passed on to me. I never gave up hope that one day I would fall pregnant and become a mum. Finally, after being on a waiting list for 18 months and trying for a baby for 8 long years, we achieved a twin pregnancy. So birth date's the same again, that's another coincidence. 2 healthy baby girls were born and Nana Joyce was very excited. I never asked Mum for help, but she wanted to spend time with me and the girls. Carly and Simon were both at school by this stage, so she didn't have any little babies to cuddle. At this stage, Ron had recently retired, and I think it was a good excuse for Joyce to get out of the house for a few hours and to maintain some of her independence. Mum was absolutely wonderful to me and Jacinta and Kate, because I had 2 babies to look after, I had double the work, and it was, I can tell you, I reckon I was tired for 3 years. I remember I missed out on taking the girls to meetings at the Maternal and Child Health Centre because I couldn't carry 2 baby capsules on my own. They were too heavy. When I was offered the opportunity to participate in the baby massage class, Mum came with me. It was really special, and the new first-time mums that I'd met, Deb and Rob, thought Joyce was wonderful. As Janice and Carly and Simon had said, we have amazing coincidences with our families, birthdays and numbers. 21 and 31 come to mind. Mum and Dad got engaged on the 21st. They got married on the 21st of the 2nd, 1953, and exactly 2 years later, Janice was born on the 21st of the 2nd, 1955, which is their second wedding anniversary. Then 2.5 years later, Joyce had me on the 31st of August, which was her 29th birthday. And sadly, my grandfather, Pa De Silva, died on our birthday. But what is even more amazing is that Mum passed away on Janice's birthday, something we, of course, will never forget, as sad as it is. Mum was married to our dad for 16 years, and she had a whopping 47 years with Ron at Brighton. The Brighton years were really Mum and Ron. Janice left after 6 months, and I left after 2 years. I'm sure I've bored you all to tears. I'm sorry it's long, but 95 years is a long time to pack into just a couple of pages. Joyce wasn't just a mum, she was my very special friend, someone I could talk to about anything at all. She was always there for me, no matter what. We had a special bond and connection, and I'm sure that it was partly due to the fact that I was born on her birthday. I think I only missed 2 birthdays in 66 years, and that was because we went away on a holiday or something, but I always had Mum with me. We always got together on our birthdays, even though we were living a fair way apart. We have similar personalities, we share the same star sign, and we had a love of sport. I've just got 2 little poems which sum up what I think a mother is, and I'd like to read them and share them with you today. A mother is your first friend, your best friend, your forever friend. A mother nurtures gently, protects fearlessly, and loves unconditionally. How lucky I am to have had you as my mum. And the next one, of all the special joys in life, the big ones and the small, a mother's love and tenderness is the greatest of them all. You had an amazing long life, Mum, and I feel very fortunate to have had a mother for 66 years. Some people are not that lucky. One thing for sure, our birthday will never be the same without you, but I know you'll always be there with me. I will love you always until we meet again. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jacinta, and Carly, Simon, Kate and I are Joyce's grandchildren. We'd like to take a moment to share some of our favourite memories of her and our beloved Nana. Growing up, all four of us enjoyed staying at Nana and Pa's place. From a young age, visits involved staying in their spare room, waking up to breakfast served for you, cereal, toast, juice, with the ABC radio blaring. We would sometimes go to the movies, or the pictures, as Nana called it. We would go on day trips to Brighton and Dendy Beach, spend time baking Anzac biscuits, shortbreads, rum balls, or date loaf. We would watch recorded versions of Bolto and Free Willy on VHS, and we'd have to fast forward through the ad breaks. We'd play cards, walk to the local playgrounds, take turns riding the bikes and the old red scooter up and down the driveway, play the piano, read books, and spend time in their garden. On one occasion, Simon and Carly made treasure maps of the backyard. Simon, being a brave adventurer, ambitiously marked his hidden treasure in the middle of the pond. Simon eventually found himself in the middle of the water, and Nana was grateful that both Simon and her fish were okay. Kate and I used to rummage through the drawers and play dress-ups with Nana's clothes. Nana would watch as we strutted our stuff and stepped in whenever we argued over who got to wear the good hats or the good jewellery. We all remember the entourage of dogs that graced the house. Brutus, Shep, and Sally were Nana's dogs, but there was always a guest dog floating around too. Barney, Bundy, Milo, Coda often got in on the fun and had a few sleepovers as well. When they got home from Nana's, they'd need an extra walk or two to get back in shape from all the treats they were given. Nana was amazing at bringing a blend of people together for the holidays and making everyone feel welcome. It was tradition to have Good Friday lunch in Brighton, featuring a big spread of seafood, including prawns, seafood extender, fish, salad, fresh bread, and lots of chocolate. Not all of Nana's festive dishes were a hit on the kids' table, though, with mixed reviews of her famous salmon mousse. She also introduced all of us to poached eggs on Vegemite toast, which is surprisingly delicious. Christmas lunch saw an overflow of food in the dining room as everyone grabbed a plate and scrambled to find a spare seat and enjoy their meal. Specialties on the menu again included prawns, cold meats, roast chicken, and of course, a Christmas pudding.
Nana wasn't shy on imparting her knowledge and wisdom amongst the grandkids. Between us, we've had lessons in knitting, tennis, lawn bowls, baking, card games, and piano. We all have quite vivid memories of Nana belting out her rendition of How Much Is That Doggy in the Window on the piano at Brighton. Nana also attempted to teach Carly how to knit and quickly became frustrated at the nuances of teaching a lefty apprentice. Knitting lessons were a one-time only offer. Nana loved her lawn bowls, and we spent a lot of time at the bowls club with her. We used our extra time at the Brighton Beach Bowls Club, waiting for the opportune moment to pinch a few biscuits from the kitchen whilst Nana played and won her competitions. She always put others before herself and never wanted to be fussed over. Right up until her 95th birthday, she would almost get annoyed at receiving any gifts from the grandkids, saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have spent your money on me," even if it was just flowers. She valued our time together so much more than anything else. When she could, Nana came to support us at special events, whether it be school performances or a sporting game. She celebrated just about any success. Her fridge became a shrine for all of the grandkids, featuring awards, drawings, articles, and photographs, some of which stayed on the fridge for decades. Even as we got older, moved out, started families of our own, and became independent, she always made time to check in, either over the phone or over a cup of tea, to find out what was going on in our lives. Nana was also a much-loved great-grandmother to Camille, Amara, Aurelie, Larkin, and Daxton. Visits from them gave her much joy in her later years. Just the smile and look of pure happiness on her face whenever she was with them are moments that we will all remember. Nana, you may have passed on, but your memories will always live on within us. Thank you for your sacrifices, your care and concern, your love and everything that you have ever done for us. Wherever you are, we know you're in a much better place. We are forever grateful and thankful that we were lucky enough to have you as our beautiful Nan. Until we meet again, we will love you forever and miss you always.
Yes, Nan. Thank you all. We're just going to have a short slideshow of photographs of Mum, followed by refreshments at the end. So we'll have a little closing after that.
Yesterday, when I was young, the taste of life was sweet as rain upon my tongue. I teased at life as if it were a foolish game, the way the evening breeze may tease a candle flame. The thousand dreams I dreamed, the splendid things I planned, I always built, alas, on weak and shifting sand. I live by night and shun the naked light of day, and only now I see how the years ran away. Yesterday, when I was young, so many lovely songs were waiting to be sung. So many wayward pleasures lay in store for me, and so much pain my dazzled eyes refused to see. I ran so fast the time I knew that last ran out. I never stopped to think what life was all about, and every conversation I can now recall concerned itself with me and nothing else at all. Yesterday, the moon was blue, and every crazy day brought something new to do. I used my magic age as if it were a wand, and never saw the waste and emptiness beyond. The game of love I played with arrogance and pride, and every flame I lit too quickly died. The friends I made all seem somehow to drift away, and only I am left on stage to end the play. There are so many songs in me that won't be sung. I feel the bitter taste of tears upon my tongue. The time has come for me to pay for yesterday, when I was young. Yesterday, when I was young, so many lovely songs were waiting to be sung. So many wayward pleasures lay in store for me, and so much pain my dazzled eyes refused to see. Yesterday, when I was young,
that's what you are.
Unforgettable, though near or far,
Like a song of love that clings to me, how the thought of you does things to me. Never before has someone been more
unforgettable in every way,
and forevermore.
and forevermore.
That's how you'll stay.
That's how you'll stay.
That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable
Thinks that I am unforgettable too. No, never before has someone been more unforgettable in every way. And forevermore, that's how you'll stay.
That's how you'll stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible
that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too.
When marimba rhythms start to play, dance with me, make me sway. Like a lazy ocean hugs the shore, hold me close, sway me more. Like a flower bending in the breeze, bend with me, sway with ease. When you dance you have to be with me, stay with me, sway with me. Other dancers may be on the floor, dear, but my eyes will see only you. Only you have that magic technique. When we sway, I go weak. I can hear the sound of violins long before it begins. Make me thrill as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now. Other dancers may be on the floor, dear, but my eyes will see only you. Only you have that magic technique. When we sway, I go weak. I can hear the sound of violins long before it begins. like a flower bending in the breeze. Bend with me, sway with me. When we dance, you have a way with me. Stay with me, sway with me. When marimbas start to play, hold me close, make me sway. Like an ocean hugs the shore, hold me close, sway me more. Like a flower bending in the breeze, bend with me, sway with me. When we dance, you have a way with me. Stay with me, sway with me.
Funny how a lonely day make a person say, what good is mine? Funny how a breaking heart can make me start to say, what good is mine? Funny how I often seem to think I'll never find a dream in my life, till I look around and see this great big world is part of me and my this is me. This is me. This is my life, and I don't give a damn for lost emotions. I've such a lot of love I've got to give. Let me live. Let me sometimes when I feel afraid, I think of what a mess I've made of mine. Crying over my mistakes, forgetting all the breaks I've had in mind. I was put on earth to be a part of this great world, is me and mine. I'll just add up the score and count the things I'm grateful for in my life. This is my life. Today, tomorrow, will come and find me. So that's the way the Lord was born to be. This is me. This is me.
Well, we had a little bit of live entertainment as well with that. Anyway, we'd all like to thank you for supporting us at this time and celebrating Mum's long and enduring life. We would also like to acknowledge and thank those family and friends who have travelled long distances to be here today, It's very much appreciated. Following the closing music, you're welcome to stay for refreshments. And we apologise for that closing music in advance because not all of you are supporters of Collingwood.
Good old Collingwood forever. They know how to play the game. Side by side they stick together to uphold the Magpies' name. See the barrackers are shouting as all barrackers should. Oh, the premiership's a cakewalk for the good old Collingwood. Good old Collingwood forever. They know how to play the game. Side by side they stick together to uphold the Magpies' name. See the barrackers are shouting